and I just kind of figured it out. I was willing to hustle because if it was up to B, it was up to me. So I took on that mentality.
So nothing gets me more excited than when I can have someone back on the show that was on the show already. And we have a little bit, it's not like a comeback. We have a massive explosion of growth story on our hands. So I'm really excited to have Peter Michael on today. So he's a realtor in the Boca area. He works the Miami market. And when I first had him on the show, he was one of the most interesting real estate marketers that I talked to in a really long time. Ran a huge podcast, Elite Agent Secrets. And fast forward, I start seeing more of his Instagram posts over the years where he's becoming an active agent, selling homes, expensive homes, kind of living a fun lifestyle in the Miami area. And I pulled his numbers and I was like, holy crap, this guy who got into the Miami market in 2020 is now doing $40+ million a year in sales, with actually like a huge spread of home types, not just luxury homes. So, dude, welcome back to the show. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's kind of crazy because it hasn't been that long since I've been on your show.
Right. Yeah, I think we probably talked like 2.5 years ago, and then
Nice.
we've just kind of stayed in touch on social. But like, just walk us through like you were in marketing forever, so you were like me, you understood it. How did you transition into real estate? What did that look like, and what made you do it?
It's kind of crazy because once you're in marketing and you understand what marketing is, you understand that marketing is the core of everything else that you do, right? Real estate is how I get paid and how I collect a check, but I market and I'm a marketer first before I'm a salesperson. Um, so before I got into real estate, for those of you that are watching the episode for the first time, I ran an online real estate lead generation business. I realized that agents struggle with the follow up and the conversion bit. And I went and I got licensed to figure out what am I missing? Like, am I missing something because I'm not in their shoes? I don't understand the struggle, or I don't understand what it takes to actually convert a lead. And lo and behold, I got licensed. I turned on my marketing system for myself. I did 100K in GCI in 100 days with like a 90 some percent profit margin, as opposed to my 26% profit margin with my marketing company. And I was like, I think I'm on to something. And the biggest thing is I genuinely enjoyed it. Now, COVID era, right? Like, if you could fog up a mirror and you had a pulse, you could probably close a deal.
I don't know if like if people out there think that that is necessarily changed, but yes, you're on the right track. Florida during COVID was like everyone wanted to be there because they had no rules.
It was booming. It was booming. Now the market is vastly different. Now you actually require some level of skill set, some level of experience in order to put deals together that are a little bit more complicated. If you're in the average price point, those things still relatively move because they're very much need-based transactions, and I
What is that
understand.
average price point that you're seeing in your market?
Yeah, it depends on where you are. I'm up in Boca, so about an hour north of Miami. I would say about like 500, 600,000 for like an entry level home in my
Okay,
area where, you're in a good school district. You could probably go a little bit lower, but expect to do a little bit of work too. So
got
we're
it.
spoiled up here.
All right. So you got into it during COVID. You basically were out to solve the conversion problem. And where has that led you?
So that has led me not to look back, and almost over the past 3 years or so since I got licensed and started doing this, to almost closing 100 million in real estate.
That's epic. I mean, like we joke about like pinky raising moments on the show. Like when you say 100 million, you kind of have to do it in a certain way. But that's amazing. I mean, 3 years to 100 million is, I think, what a lot of people set goals to in this industry. What are some of the things that you've done? I know you've done some really, you have some novel approaches to marketing, and then you follow a lot of the basics that you just do and you grind and they work. So walk us through like where did that business initially come from? Like how did you build a network in a new city like Miami? I mean, building a network in a small town is one thing, wherever there's trust built in and everyone sees you, but like you were just another dude with like a cool shirt and a cool car in Miami. Like, how did you make that happen?
Yeah, great question. So when we moved down, I didn't know anyone. We had no friends, no
It was like
family.
you and your wife, right? You and your
Just
wife and a baby.
my wife and I and our little baby at the time. I think she was like 6 or 9 months old. Um, we just kind of moved completely blind. We had no idea what to expect. At that point, I didn't have a cool car and all the quote unquote glory behind the story yet. But all I knew was how to turn on ads and do paid advertising. And I didn't know how to cold call. I didn't know what door knocking was. I didn't know how to do an open house. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know where to go in my system to draft up the contract. But here's what I do know. I joined the company. I had very limited support at the time, and I just kind of figured it out. I was willing to hustle because if it was up to B, it was up to me. So I took on that mentality. And as an immigrant chasing his American dream, it became very evident that if I can just out hustle the next person, because everybody here runs on Florida time, which is like slow time, then I would do just a okay. And I never expected to get to where I am today in that short of a time frame. But I basically understood that the more input and the more action I took, the more output I got. So I would grind leads every day, all day, for hours on time. And even if I wasn't getting the results right there and then, I was patient enough to know that I was going to compound that action and get results later, sort of like the popcorn effect, right?
Mm.
You take a bag of popcorn, you put it in the microwave for the first 2 3 minutes, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden the kettles start popping left and right, and then all of a sudden you have a bag full of popcorn, right? For us in real estate, that may be a week, that may be a month, that may be 3 or 6 months. And I knew that from running lead generation, that the average sales cycle was anywhere between 30, 45 to 60 days. So if I got somebody in the door today, showed them properties, got them pre-approved, got them under contract, I'm looking at least at 30 to 45 days, which meant that I need to take massive action now to expedite that process to find somebody tomorrow that is ready, willing, and able to make a move or be open to having that conversation. So I understood the laws of averages, that if I made 10 phone calls and I got one appointment, if I made 20, I would get two. So then it's a game of speed, not only speed to lead, but the game of speed of how many phone calls can I make and and how much of a time I can do that in order to get 2, 3, 4, 5 appointments. And then I understood that if I got 10 appointments, one or two of those people would be ready today. So I just reverse engineered the numbers. I wasn't as focused on the money in the beginning, and I still really am not. I'm focused on getting the relationship, building it, converting it, and getting the transaction going as quickly as possible because I know that the money is going to be there, right? Like in a 500, $600,000 price point, like our commissions are 10, 15, 20 grand. So if you're good with finances, you can literally have 5 deals in the pipeline. And if you don't have a crazy lifestyle, that can probably last you quite a bit. And then I would just reinvest back into my business. If I made 10, I would set aside 500 to $1,000 and put it right back in. And then I figured out what my cost per lead was, cost per appointment, cost per application for pre-approval, cost per for getting somebody in the car, cost per contract written, cost per contract closed, all the way to, and that kind of like back end was my cost of acquisition. So I understood that if I spent $856, I would get a deal. So if I spend 10 grand, I would roughly get 10 deals, right?
This is so interesting because it's you're talking about real estate as if it were a business,
It
and
is.
this is not how other realtors approach this. If you go to any bar in Florida, you can shout out, "Hey, are there any realtors in here?" And like 30 people will raise their hand. Everyone has their friggin' license. It's a joke. But
Yes.
if you ask those same 30 people what their cost per lead is, what their cost per open house is, what their cost per appointment is, they have no friggin' idea. Like so few people know their numbers, and maybe they could figure it out, but most of them don't even have the tools set up to track that. And so like my first, prompt to anyone listening would be, if you want to get to the level that some of these agents are who are on the show, you have to know your numbers inside and out. Like if I'm your buyer and I'm halfway intelligent, I'm going to ask you some questions about your business. And if you don't know the answers, I immediately don't want to work with you, right? Like, sure, you as the realtor want my $1 million sale, but like if you don't know the details of your own business, why would I believe that you should be in the business to sell my house?
Exactly. And Matt, the other thing is maybe you don't know your numbers, and that's okay. Maybe you don't track everything the same way I do, which is also okay. But start somewhere, because
Right.
then you're not guessing of what you need to do. You have at least a rough idea of what you can do in order to yield the desired result. Where I see a lot of agents is not only do they not think about their business as a business, but they're just kind of like winging it haphazardly, like, oh, they're going to all these happy hours, they're going to all these brokers opens, they're hoping that they're going to do an open house, they don't put any signs out, and there's no real intent behind it. Like, I'm super intentional with my time. If it doesn't get me an ROI, or it doesn't line up with where I want to take my business, like, you're never going to catch me at a happy hour. You just won't. I'd rather spend that time with my wife and my kids. Now, could you argue that I'm missing an opportunity? Yeah, maybe. But who's got the happy hour? Other agents. Great. Let's do some deals together and we're going to get to know each other, right? Like, how can we be more intentional with our time? Like, how can we create more leverage and essentially the gap? So when you think of your business as a business, if I'm going to a happy hour, right? And let's say you want to make $1 million and you're at the happy hour for an hour, that is $500 that you just either wasted or you've invested.
Right.
So is your decision making process different when you change your thinking? Probably. Every time I pick up the phone, that's $100, right? If, let's say, your average commission is 10 grand, you need to make 100 phone calls to make 10 grand. Every time you pick up that phone, it's $100. You're just going to wait to cash the check. So now, how many times are you going to pick up the phone? Are you going to compress time to do it quicker? The answer is of course. Now, maybe you're not motivated by money, so figure out what makes you tick, because it's as crazy as it seems, it's not about money for every single person that's going to listen to your podcast. Maybe it's something with time freedom, flexibility. Maybe it's being able to spend more time with your family. However, you still need funds and resources to do that. So how can you be more efficient? How can you compress more time instead of wasting it at a happy hour that is not productive? Why don't you spend that hour calling through your database and genuinely seeing where you can offer some value, or how you can be helpful, how can you be resourceful for them, or maybe just to shoot the shit. And all of a sudden, real estate somehow comes up in the conversation, because we all know it does.
Yeah, well, it's super interesting because we call it a happy hour, but it ends up being a sad hour because most people leave that happy hour and think, wow, that was an hour of my life I'm never going to get back unless somehow the drinks and the food and everything else was amazing. I talked to an agent on the show, $100 million producer in, I want to say North or South Carolina. And her thing was this: she'll go to an event. She's not saying no to everything, but she's saying no to most of them, just like you. But when she shows up at an event, she has a sticky note or a note section on her phone with the 5 goals she has for that event. What does she need to do to make that successful? So it might be, if it's a realtor happy hour or a realtor event, she's going to find out 5 off-market listings that people there have coming up that she can then the next day make 20 calls to all of her past clients who might be candidates for that house. She's trying to hunt for a very specific buyer need that doesn't exist on the market. Or if it's a non-real estate related event, she's thinking, okay, I need to meet 3 people at these types of companies or in these types of positions because I'm trying to solidify my relationship with XYZ person. And it's very, very intentional. And then she's setting those follow-up meetings afterwards. Like, there is a right way to do it. And I don't want to discourage people listening from not going to anything, but time is money. You got to look at the quality of people and the quality of these events that you're going to.
Well,
And
exactly, and I think you make a valid point. So I'm not saying I'm not going to
yeah,
them. I'm saying that I'm intentional if I
intentionality.
choose to do so. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I went to a broker's open, which I never go to. Now, why did I go? Because I have a contract on the property and I wanted to see how many agents are going to show up. What's the feedback? Go there, sit there, listen, meet some agents, maybe plant some seeds. So I have an advantage when it comes to my contract, right? But also, I wanted to get the FaceTime with the listing agent because sometimes relationships are what's going to sway the deal because they know I get deals done. I'm reasonable. I'm fair. I hope I'm a pleasant guy to be around, and I'm kind. So I'm not trying to screw anyone either. At the same time, and put my client in the best position possible.
Okay.
So that was very intentional.
I like that. Let's
I
let's pivot for a quick second. So you mentioned earlier one of the things you did when you initially moved to that area was you did a ton of social media ads. Now we're 5 years later. Are you still running social media ads?
I am.
Okay. What
I
are the
just
calls?
evolved
What
in
are the
how I
calls
do
to
it.
action in your ads that are getting people to convert?
So that's a little bit of a tricky question to answer because the same stuff that's worked 3, 4 years ago still works today,
I love hearing that. The
right?
classics.
It's the classics. It's like the OG. Now why does it work? Because fundamentally marketing and psychology is still the same. So there's no fancy way of running ads. There's no fancy way of converting. However, I have built a very specific niche. Because I have built a very specific niche, I don't leverage as much of the classics for myself anymore. I go more about building my own personal brand with my niche that then brings a very unique and specific type of avatar that I'd like to attract.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. What is the niche that you've been going after?
Yeah, so I specialize in short term rental acquisitions, Airbnbs, and stuff like that, investment properties. My ideal avatar is a high net worth individual who has a big tax bill. And what I do is I help them acquire real estate while getting rid of that tax bill. So leverage real estate to save on taxes. There are tax loopholes right now that have been created for by the two previous administrations, and now the current administration is bringing them back to incentivize the real estate market at a whole nother level that we've seen back about 4 to 8 years ago. So when I speak to that avatar, I am looking specifically for like doctors, attorneys, um, business owners who have the means, who have the ability, who have the finances in order to buy $1 million to $3 million property, but they have zero time to set it up, manage it, so on and so forth. So my marketing is specifically targeting them by finding out what their pain points are, providing them the solutions, and telling them how we're going to do it together,
I
right?
love that.
So that's how my marketing has changed because my avatar has changed. Now if I'm looking for like your regular primary owner occupants, for people that are relocating or moving into the area, maybe that are going from their first home to their second home and upgrading, or the first time home buyers, those ads, they're still the same. They still work. You can put your face on them and brand yourself. But I think in today's market, you have to do just a little bit more because people want to be able to trust you before they do business with you because of how many agents have entered into the space and also how many agents are known to leave after their first year. It's like 87 or almost 90% that first year agents won't make it to second year. Like in Florida, the requirements are so low that you get your driver's license, your voter registration, your real estate license, probably like literally in that order when you move into the state.
Yeah, they're like asking you at the welcome office at the truck stop, like, hey, do you want to be a realtor here?
It's mental. It's crazy. Like I think in Florida specifically, like one person knows on average at least 4 or 5 real estate agents.
But that
Also,
one person probably doesn't know any agents that have actually sold a house that year.
Well, and that's the problem, right? Like most agents have one or two transactions per year. Now in my market, that's like 20, 30 grand, which is
Yeah.
not bad, but it's also not good. As opposed to somebody like myself or you, when we do deals, like I may have 5 or 8 transactions per month pending right
Right.
now, or in process going under contract, right? So my skill set, my expertise, and my knowledge, even though I may not have been in the business for the last 20 years, there's some agents that I speak with, and they're like, "Oh, well, I've been in business for 20 years, and I've sold 100 million." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this is going to be a very rough deal,
Yeah.
right?" Because I know I'm going to basically do the job for the both of us. And anytime I have a conversation with an agent and says, "Well, I've been doing this for 20 years," I just know there's going to be trouble. Or anytime somebody says, "Oh, I'm a top agent," listen, I'm a top agent, but I'm not going to tell you I'm a top agent. I'm going to stay humble, and I'm just going to be a regular person that is trying to do what's best for my client. I'm going to represent my client and as professionally as I can be. I'm not going to toss my numbers. If you want, you can look me up. You've done so before getting on
Yeah.
this podcast, right? Like move in silence.
Move in silence. It's an underrated skill. Let's talk about your Airbnb thing really quick. So, how did you develop a niche when it comes to Airbnbs? Because obviously, I think 20% of the market last year nationwide went the way of investors. There are obviously people that have the money, so they're going to be less picky on certain things, but more picky on the financials. So, what specific services are you offering other than your expertise to people purchasing an Airbnb? What does that look like?
Yeah. So my ideal avatar and my ideal client wants to invest in real estate, doesn't know where or how, and is also not always necessarily concerned with getting a 10 or 15 or 20% cap rate or something crazy that they see on Instagram and all from all these other gurus. A lot of my clients are a little bit more conservative. They want to make sure that they get a property that's got a reasonable cap rate, somewhere between 5 and 10%. They get to write it off, have some tax advantages with it, and then play the long term game of acquisition where they're buying, holding, making money. The property carries and maintains itself essentially with the finances that it brings in. And then they have the option of either 1031 exchanging it or doing something else with it or continue renting it, right? So with my services, what I do is I help them figure out and pick and acquire the right property on the front end through underwriting on the tax benefits, underwriting on the revenue, the gross numbers, the net numbers, the capex number, anything that they're going to need to be educated to make a good decision, good financial decision, or I would say for themselves, right? And then after they're done with the property, we help our clients outfit the property for whatever it is they want to do with it. If they want to long term rent it, if they want to do renovations, we can do that. If they want to short term rent it, where a majority of my clients is, we do the design, the setup, the renovations, big, small, doesn't matter jobs. We've done jobs as little as like 20, 30 grand. I've done jobs as big as 300, 400, $500,000, additions, pools, so on and so forth. And then we transition it into our property management group where you're like, okay, cool. Well, we've done all the work. Do you want to manage it or do you want us to manage it? And 9 out of 10 of them will want us to manage it. So they've acquired the property, we help them set it up, and now we're managing it for them. They're completely hands off. A few months later, they call us, they want to get another property because we'll optimize, dial in, and scale the revenue on that first property, which now means that they have a property that carries themselves or carries itself, I should say, and they have financial means to go on the second property, um, third property, fourth property, whatever else they may want. Now, in the rare occasion that they don't want to be in my area because of my podcast and my connections, you included, I have done and I would say a really good job about figuring out where they want to go and building a referral network with those agents who are also top agents. They may not know what I know when it comes to this playground, but they're at least incredible agents that I can connect them with and refer them to. So I don't end up losing the client because they want to go to Texas or Vegas or California or Michigan, wherever it is that they may be. I have a trusted partner that I can at least earn on the referral, help them through the process, and know that they're being taken care of. Because my ultimate philosophy is that the client has to go first. We're
I
always last.
I absolutely love that. The interesting thing here is how fast some realtors are to basically throw away a relationship. You've done four investment properties for a client, and you find out that they're buying their next one in another market. Yeah, sure, you can refer it out, get a slight commission check back on the referral fee, but like that's still a relationship that you have to cultivate because like they might come back, they might buy more properties by you. You just have to really manicure that situation well. But I like so you have a property management company. Is that correct?
Not by choice, but yes.
Not by choice. So for you, this is interesting. So the property management company is not like you're not doing it to make a bunch of money. You're doing that because it's a service that makes you stickier when you're
Correct.
marketing your main money maker to investors and people into your target market, your avatar.
Listen, I'm going to go on record. I'm going to go out on the limb. I'm going to tell you exactly what I tell my clients. I hate property management. I like if I didn't have, well, I don't have to do anything, right?
Yeah.
If there was another way for me to do what I do and service my clients at the highest level possible and stand in integrity, I would never do property management. But because there is a need, property management is the worst business for me, at least. Some people are going to love it. For me, it's the worst business that has yet to ever exist. So I literally make almost no money. Most of my money, like when I said my marketing company was at a 26% margin, I think my property management company is maybe at like a 2%, 3% margin. Now, why did I do it this way? It's because my clients, I make money on the acquisition. On the even on the done for you setup services, we keep the pricing so aggressive and so competitive that it covers my costs and then just a little bit extra. So it's not a huge money maker, right? But here's what it does. It allows me to create an opportunity for my team and the people that work with me where they get jobs. So I take care of them from that perspective. And most importantly, it takes care of my client because it gives them a solution to their biggest pain point of what do I do with the property after I get it? The property management is basically an extension of that, where now they're like, well, I don't know how to manage it. So if they're not making money with their property, they're not going to buy again. So I solve for the property management where I can take a property that makes 60, 70,000 after we outfit it to then 100, 120, 130,000, where now they're happy, they're seeing the results that what I said initially was possible on the acquisition side, and it carries them through the full sales cycle and it provides a solution to every single one of their pain points and sets them up to go and buy again with me because they know that the proof of concept is going to be there and they're
You
going to
made it well. You made it easy for them too. So I mean, a lot of
very
people.
easy.
Like, I could tell you that like I bought my first investment property probably 9 years ago, and I did it because a friend said I was stupid for not doing it. And since then, I've bought eight because the realtor that I bought that house from is my property manager now, and he does almost all the work for me. I make a couple decisions when we have lunch or happy hour every now and then. And
Mhm.
so I don't like every time I have an extra 100 grand sitting in my account, I'm like, hey, buy me another property. Like I trust him at this point enough to not even care what we're buying as much as long as I know the areas and the numbers because he knows what's going to do well in our portfolio. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking away the pain point, the stress. You're taking away all the friction of buying a
Correct.
house for an investor. And you've not only doubled down, you're not just helping investors, you're helping Airbnb investors, which is such an
Correct.
interesting mode. But I think agents listening to this can really, I want to make sure that they don't typecast this advice. I want to make sure that people listening aren't thinking, I need to go and start an Airbnb management company, because that's
Correct.
not what we're saying. What we're saying is you need to find a way to take some friction out of the lives and the real estate transaction for whoever you're choosing to work with. Like maybe you're working with single moms, maybe you're working with parents with young kids, maybe you're working with dog moms. How can you make the real estate process easier, more fun, more memorable for all of those people so they want to go through it with you again?
So look, so I think you make a valid point. Like, let's take fundamentally, I'm telling you the concept of finding the problem, figuring out the solution, get paid for it, right? Like, that's really what we're talking about here. Let's say you are a relocation expert. Okay, well, you can find them the home in your area, but can you help them with the movers? Do you have a moving company? Can you help them set up their utilities, their bills? Can you make a concierge service? Can you help them uh, get connected with an interior designer who can stage the property before they even move in? Or can you have a group of people that when they arrive unloads the truck for them, right? These are all different solutions to potential pain points that those people have. First time home buyers, during the transaction, can you connect them with the right lender that has the right program, the right grants where they can get extra money? Can you help them figure out how to set up their homestead after they move in order to make sure that they don't get extra, they don't pay extra money on taxes? These are all the different solutions that no matter which avatar you service, I don't necessarily look at them as, crazy money makers, but they're the ones that create the Apple ecosystem, but just in real estate, right? Like, how many of us have an iPhone, have AirPods, have Apple Watch, have a MacBook, right? Once you're inside of that ecosystem, I challenge you to change to a Samsung ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm not doing it, man.
It's too painful,
Well, it's
right?
so funny that you're saying this because one of the best podcasts I've done probably 2 years ago was with a realtor in South Dakota, right? Like who'd have thought South Dakota? Her name's Amy, and we have found that it is 25 to 30% more expensive for any client in her city to not use her, because when you use her and she's your realtor, you can borrow stuff from her. You can borrow moving trucks and snow plows and like every possible children's birthday party item you can need. Her clients are coming to her storage unit and checking items out every day of the year. And if they don't use her, they don't get access to all this stuff. So she's now created this ecosystem where everybody uses her. Her market share is approaching 50%, and she's one realtor, right? It almost doesn't make sense for any realtor to join in their area unless they're on her team. And what you're describing is very, very similar. Like your ecosystem around your niche is so well set up that it doesn't make sense to not use you.
Try,
So I
try,
want to
try
be,
to try
yeah,
to
go ahead.
get some Airbnbs in Southeast Florida in certain areas that I'm in. God bless you. You're gonna
Yeah,
pay. You're gonna pay to play.
I love this.
But that's because we have very strategically created this opportunity for clients not over a month, but over the last 3 years. And we have compounded it for them where it just makes sense.
All right. So we talked about your niche. We talked about the Airbnb thing. We talked about some social media ads. Is there any other big thing in your business that you're working on that seems right now to be working well in this market? And I want to lead, and then I want to end with like, what do you see in the Florida market? Because I know everyone who listens to this is referring clients to agents in Florida to buy houses all the time. So I want to give them a market update.
Yeah, yeah. The big thing that I'm working on right now is getting my voice and presence out there by building a personal brand. I have met with multiple individuals in real estate and out of real estate. And what took them from wherever they were to wherever they are today, and then what allows them to continue scaling is their brand, right? So you could be the best realtor in, I don't know, Gillette, Wyoming. No, nobody's going to know that unless you have a brand, you have a presence, you're consistent, and it compounds, right? But you could be the worst realtor and have the best brand and control that, and you may be the richest realtor in that same exact area, not because you know the contracts in and out, but because everybody knows you and everybody at that point thinks that you are the person to go to. So if you have both, where you are the best realtor, you have the skill sets, the expertise, and you have the brand, I think you are positioning yourself to weather the storm, whether the market is good or bad or whatever else is coming. simply because the perceived value that you'll bring to the table is going to be out there and easily accessible before anybody even reaches out to you. I can't tell you how many people reach out to me on social media that have been consuming my content for months, years sometimes. They're like, hey, I've been following you for the last 9 months. We're getting ready to move to Southeast Florida. We would love for you to be able to help us. Right? Or, hey, I got your name from so and so. I hear this is what you specialize in. I went on your social. How do you even know that was a thing? Can you help us? This is our situation. And then the level of trust that you can build through video, through social media, as long as you're authentic and genuine, true to yourself, like don't try to be somebody you're not, because people will see that. They'll feel that, right? Like I am unapologetically, however you pronounce it, unfiltered on my social media. Like I may not be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay too. But you best better believe that if you have me on your team, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you into whatever you want when it comes to real estate.
Well, and I see that on your social media, right? So like part of the reason I was like, hey, like I gotta have him on again is because I miss you, man.
Thank
And I
you.
can see you're doing a lot of the same things with your family in Miami that I like to do when I'm visiting Miami and when we're on trips. So,
Yes.
you I think social media is a really great filter to find people that are like you. Because like attraction is attraction. Like
Hmm.
I want to work with someone who's like me. Unless I think I suck and I have no self-confidence, and I want to work with someone that's better. But that's the vibe. Well, tell me really quick. So, what's the market like in Florida? I know there's really low inventory everywhere else in the country. Florida seems to have a lot of friggin' opportunities right now. What are you seeing on the ground? And I'm sure it's area specific. So I shouldn't have even opened my mouth about Florida since I'm not there today.
Yeah. Man, the market's crazy. And it just depends on what you're looking for. I mean, we have Boca, some of the luxury market, which I would consider to be like 3 million and up, is up 50% year over year,
Wow.
which is mental to think about. Meanwhile, the market that's like from 800 to a million and a half has 20% less volume in transactions right now.
Okay.
And everyone is kind of in panic mode where things are taking longer to close. Now, let me put some perspective in here. Things used to close in a week during COVID and some of the height of our markets, right? So if your listing sits on the market for 30 to 45 days, like that's okay. You're not doing anything wrong unless you grossly mispriced the property, and you can't outmarket that either, right? So the market in Florida is very unique, and I want you to keep in mind that whatever you see as far as price goes, just know and anticipate there's room in it. In Florida, over the last few years, every seller, or just about every seller that I speak to, thinks their property is worth more than it is, and everyone thinks that what was a year or 2 years ago is still the case. However, that is not the case. So the listings and the listing prices are typically higher, and there's room in there, but the closed prices are closing higher than the previous sale. So while they may drop the price, they're still closing higher. Not as much as they used to, by 10 or 15% higher. I would say about 3%, 4%, like manageable, right? The uncertainty and the volatility in the current market with the different decisions that our administration is making regarding tariffs and rates and so on and so forth is bringing some uncertainty that we are seeing right now, that is a direct correlation to our lower number of transactions in the market. But our regular, average price points are still moving, and instead of it being 15 to 30 days, maybe they're 30 to 45 or 60 days. So
Okay.
there's still movement in our market, right? So it's very deceiving. Some sellers will not want to take a price cut, and they'll chase the market down or potentially never sell, like one of the ones I'm dealing with right now. But if it's your job, it's your duty, it's your responsibility, it's your obligation to equip your clients with the good, the bad, the ugly, and remove yourself from the outcome that they decide to pursue. We can't convince somebody that their house is overpriced until we get an offer that is way under, and then they get upset, right? So when it comes to the market, just hang tight. I think Florida is going to come down a little bit, or at least I sure hope so. But overall, I think long term, it is still going to be one of the hottest markets, specifically because we have a lot of second homes and investment homes. And all my New Yorkers, or my Philadelphians, all my Northeasterns, or my Californians are ready, willing, and able to pay a little bit more because it's still less expensive than where they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is what's driving the prices up as is. Now, during COVID, Florida was very undervalued and very much under the market. So the huge spike that we saw, it was going to happen. And instead of happening over 5 or 10 years, it happened over two, which is why now some of these things are going to come down, but not a whole lot. Like, look, my own house, I bought it at, I think, like 750. We just got an appraisal at 815. Everything else in my neighborhood selling at 760. That's comparable. So you're telling me that my house really only appreciated 10 or 15 grand? I'm happy with that over the last 2 years. There's been times where that would have been 100 grand and people would be upset that it's only 100 grand,
Right.
right? So
Perceptions.
real estate isn't a short-term game. If you're hoping to be in and out, you better be buying assets very aggressively. And I'll leave you with this. You don't make money on the sell. You make money on the acquisition. When you acquire the property correctly with the right intent and the strategy in place, you're able to do whatever is needed that is in alignment with your strategy, then that's a win.
I love that. Peter Michael, dude, this was awesome. I appreciate all the advice. Anyone out there that has clients looking in Southern Florida, this is the guy that you need to talk to, especially if they're looking for a second home, vacation home, Airbnb rental. He knows his stuff and he has a process set up. Plus, pays a referral fee, so that doesn't hurt
There
either.
you go.
Dude, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you so much, Matt.